Hi everyone, this is Paul Gaszak, Dean of Academic Engagement, and I'm going to try to go through as quickly as I can and talk about some of the updates that have happened to the EbL certification system. Now we're inside of the EbL at RMU site. There is our URL up there, and remember you have to be logged into your RMU email account to get onto this site. If we go to Activities and Courses, the first thing we see here is our activities submission form. There's a lot of updates and changes to this, so I'm going to highlight what's going on here. As always, you can fill out the form here on the website, or you can click this button to pop it out into a different window. When you submit an activity now, still submit a course, what course it's for, and the activity titles we've done in the past. But now you're also being asked to submit a synopsis, a one-sentence overview. This is to help faculty be able to look at the archives and see very succinctly what is the activity about before they start reading the additional information that's provided throughout this submission. So hopefully this will make the archive more user-friendly so that we can look through things and make choices on what activities we want to use. This EbL taxonomy, this is something pretty big, and this has been getting worked on behind the scenes since at least November 2017, and there's still more to be fleshed out with this, and we'll have to have conversations about this at future professional development days or curriculum days. But do read this paragraph here that explains what the EbL taxonomy is about and sort of how it functions. When you're submitting an activity, you're going to try to assess your activity as what level is it. Now, at the bottom here, I note that the level of your activity is not a judgment, meaning that if your activity is level 1 and not level 3, that's not a bad thing. So this is not to say that every activity you have has to strive to be a higher level. That is not the goal. That is not the objective. What this is hoping to do is for us to start building up our evidence and our case to say, in the view of EbL at RMU, things that happen in the classroom are experiential as well. As we've talked about at a lot of our curriculum days and professional development days, there are other institutions, other bodies that would say some of what we do in the classroom is not actually experiential. We believe it is, and this is going to help us build our case to say that, sure, a 15-minute activity inside of a classroom is maybe not as transformative as a study abroad program, an internship, or a clinical, but nonetheless, they are still experiential and they're still following our DARA model. Moving down, again, define as specifically as you can what is happening, what are the resources, how are you doing it, who, define if the act, the core experience of the activity, was done as individuals, groups or teams, or as a whole class. Here, pick is it for a day class, an evening class, day or evening. Is this happening during or outside of a class period? And for that, we're talking about the act. So the actual primary action of the experience is what we're talking about here. So for example, if I talk to my students one class period and tell them, next class we're going out to a museum and here's what we're going to do there. And then the next day, the next class we go to that museum, we experience it. Then the following class period when we're back together in the classroom, we all have a conversation and reflect and acknowledge on that experience of going out. The act was going to the museum, and so that excursion is what the act is. So think about what is the act. That's how you're answering this. Campus, as always, but one addition here is we now have an any branch location for the rare occasions when there is actually an activity that can only be done at branches and not in Chicago. Here identifying in class, on campus, or off campus, and defining more clearly right here what that means. There's been some confusion over time about what's the difference between in class and on campus. Hopefully that clears that up for you a little bit. Also talking about on or off campus here. If the main act is not in the regular classroom, where is it occurring? Define that here. The design, act, reflect, acknowledge is all the same as it's been in the past, but the language has been changed a little bit to more directly match the model that we've been putting in our syllabi. Put any additional comments or details here, and at the bottom, this is something new as well, that we're trying to get back to that old cultural connections idea and figure out which of these experiences are truly engaging in cultural engagement. So if you believe that your activity is purposefully exposing students to diverse cultural perspectives, click yes for this button. Now, much like the EbL taxonomy here, it is not a point against your activity if it doesn't purposely engage students in diverse cultural perspectives. That's not the point. That's not the goal. There are a lot of very important lessons, a lot of very important excursions, a lot of very important activities that are not going to be purposely exposing students to diverse cultural perspectives. So don't feel like you have to click yes just to make sure all of your activities do that. That's not the purpose. That's not the goal. If you're working on, say, like technical skills in an accounting class or in a nursing class, then that's fine. Click no. There's a great purpose to those activities, but they're not necessarily exposing the students to different cultural perspectives. And also, think about this in terms of it has to be directly and purposefully exposing the students. So you're planning, part of the design of this is to expose them to cultural perspectives. We don't want to think about, tangentially. So if I'm having my students get on a train to go to a site to do something, I don't want to say, oh sure, they were exposed to cultural perspectives just by the nature of having been out in public. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the design is exposing students here. Now, if we go back to our main EbL site and scroll down, another big change is that our activity archive is now a spreadsheet. It's not a series of Google folders with PDFs. They are spreadsheets, and the reason why is that these are now searchable. So that if you're looking for, say, a Com 101 activity that can be delivered in the day at the Chicago campus, you'll be able to use filters in these spreadsheets to find specific activities that meet the needs you have. And so this should make searching and looking through everything much, much easier than with the PDFs we have in the past. And here are the directions for how to search the archive, so there's no confusion there. Both of these archives are the same. One is just a spreadsheet for an Excel, the other is Google Sheet. And right now, as noted, the full archive has not been translated over to this new spreadsheet form just yet. It's going to be there very, very quickly, but I wanted people to be able to see what it is, what it looks like, how it functions, so we'll be aware of that moving forward. Down here, the course certification stuff is the same. As we go down, the new rubric form, again, that's only for people who are assessing within the EbL Institute. I just want everyone to have access to that so you can see the process. Down here, the course certification criterion exemption is the same as the past. One new addition, though, is an EbL activity audit form. If there is an activity that's already been certified and you need to make a change to it for some reason, you can fill out this form to update that activity as opposed to submitting an entirely new activity. So, for example, let's say you submit an activity for a course and it relates to a textbook that you were using in the class at the time, and the textbook is changed. And everything else about the activity still works. You just have to put in the new name of the book, the new chapter, something like that. Well, then rather than submitting the entire activity again, you can just go ahead and go in here, fill out this form and say, hey, in activity X, please change this information. We go back up here for a second. Couple more things to be quickly aware of. Your EbL lab reservations are still here for the Chicago campus. We have a media center where if you need, for any reason, the different logos and some photos that relate to EbL at RMU, these are all updated, including the most recent institutionally approved RMU logos. They're all there for you. So that about does it for the updates to the EbL certification system. There's probably some other things I did not go over, but let's not make this webcast too long here, and we'll talk about these things more in person at an upcoming curriculum day or professional development day. So if you have any questions in the meantime, feel free to reach out to me at pgaszak@robertmorris.edu, or just send an email to the EbL Institute at ebli@robertmorris.edu. Thanks everybody, and thank you for all your support and continued efforts to move forward all of our EbL initiatives at RMU.